Georgia heads on down to Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. We'll discuss that with Randy from a Damn Beast Media, Kirby on coaching his 100th game, and are Georgia fans spoiled? That's the question this week on the podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all those things. Support the channel. That'll really help us out. Randy from a Damn Beast Media on the podcast today. Talk a little Georgia football. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, so we got the deepest South's old biggest rivalry this week. We got Auburn. From the statistics that I was looking at, I guess I didn't realize. I know we kind of dominated them recently, but 9 out of 10. I think we've won 13 out of 14. So, and I believe it's around 14-point spread. So I wanted to start off with that game. What's your thoughts on Georgia heading into on the road? Carson Beck's first start against Auburn, coming
Well,
off to me look a little sluggish with those quarterbacks.
I've got a lot of thoughts about Auburn because earlier this year in the preseason, I looked at which games might give Georgia a difficult push, right? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts on this team, a lot of new things, new quarterback, new OC, figuring out who's going to be the number one running back, injuries, all that stuff's playing a factor. So I pointed to not South Carolina, but to Auburn as the first red light flashing warning game for the Dogs, not necessarily because of the talent or anything like that Auburn has going on, but simply because of the history of the rivalry and because Jordan Hare is a difficult place to play. When Auburn really has it rolling, Jordan Hare is the kind of place that regardless of what the spread is, you can sort of +3, +5 Auburn on that spread when they're really good. That's the kind of home field advantage that they have when they're really rolling. So when you take all the moving parts that Georgia has, and then you go on the road for the first time, now, albeit it shouldn't have been that way, but that's the reality. This is their first road trip. All that stuff still has to be proven, right? We might think we know something about this team through 4 games, or through 3 games, but at the same time, it's there's so much that we don't know, right? I talk about it on the podcast often. There is the island of knowledge, and then there's the shoreline of ignorance that is ever growing. So the more you learn about the team, the more you learn that you don't know. And this weekend, we're going to find out a lot about Georgia that we simply cannot know right now, which is how will Carson do in his first road start? This roster is made up of really young players. I think the number's right at 50%, maybe a little bit higher, that are 2 years or less in the program. Not all of them have been in an environment like this. So, and we're depending on those guys in certain positions. So there's going to be a lot that we're going to learn about this game. But weird things can happen over there. With all that said, I still feel pretty good about the Dogs' chances to get over there and get the victory, though.
Yeah, completely agree, and especially after the quarterbacks that they looked dismal for Auburn. I think they were 9 out of 23 for 53 yards, 56 yards, and I think it was crazy that against Texas A&M they had a total of 5 quarterbacks in that game, which is interesting. I think
Yeah.
3 for Auburn. But I will say that is a tough place to play. Can be really tough house of horrors for a lot of people on the road. Can get loud, and Georgia with the slow start. But do you think we'll get Ladd and some of the other guys from what you read this week?
Well,
Ladd and
when I first started thinking about whether or not Ladd might come back, I did not have high hopes. I know, but then I heard that coach said they had put him on a 2-week complete stop, right? Just don't do anything for a couple of weeks, and that he was going to attempt to practice this week. Now, I can't say that I know anything, but trends seem to be moving toward he's doing okay, and there's a shot. So at this point, after having been without him completely this season, the fact that there's just a shot makes me feel really good. I also think that there's a chance we might get Kendall back. There's a chance we could get Javon Bullard back. And if all those people do suit up and actually play meaningful minutes for the Dogs, that is not a good thing if you're an Auburn Tiger. It's a great thing if you're a Georgia Bulldog. So I'm hopeful, but we have to wait and see.
Yeah, completely agree. Like I said, their offense doesn't scare me at all. Do you know anything a little bit about their defense and the matchups that way? I think they're pretty stingy against Texas A&M. Still not sure how good Texas A&M is. And I also want to get your prediction 14.5 to the Dogs cover. And I don't think Georgia's actually covered this year at all on any of the spreads.
Well, if you're talking about that team, I was actually talking to some Auburn people this week, and I asked some of these same questions because in some ways, they just like Georgia don't know exactly what they have, right? They knew what they felt regarding like offseason expectation, but they're learning in real time what they actually have, much like Georgia fans are. And the question I posed directly was, is the Auburn defense, do they look the way they look because of who they played, or do they look the way they look because they have pretty good players? And what I would say is that the secondary, if they're healthy, is pretty good for Auburn. They've got some talent back there. They have some experience. They have a young guy at edge that they're leaning on to get a little pass rush pressure. But on the whole, along the lines of scrimmage, I would say that if there were going to be a place that Georgia might have an advantage, that's where it would be Georgia's offensive line against their defensive line. But as a Georgia fan, I'm still looking for more consistency out of Georgia's offensive line unit. And we all know the story about moving pieces and injuries and things like that. So if Georgia can find that consistency, I think that's an area that they really might be able to make some hay against the barn. And even though they have experience on the back end, Auburn, I mean, there are going to be opportunities to take shots down the field because obviously you get the run game going. That opens up the pass game when you run true play action and things like that. So as far as how they look, I don't think we ultimately know, but I do think that they're better on the back end than they are on the front end.
Completely agree. Yeah, I'll go ahead and give my pick. I think they'll hang around the first half because they do have some guys and some talent from the transfer part of Auburn. But I think Georgia hopefully won't come out to a slow start, but I think they will kind of calm the crowd down. I can see it maybe being like a 14-7 game in the first half. But I think we kind of pull out in the second half, pull away a little bit. We get Brock Bowers and hopefully Ladd plays a little bit and Dominique Lovett and actually all the weapons that we have. But I'm gonna go 28-10. I could see. I just don't. I wasn't impressed at all. I know they got who's the backup quarterback? Do they have he played last year?
Robbie Ashford for Auburn.
Robbie Ashford. I know he's mobile, can be a little bit dangerous. Not impressed with his arm, and Thorn kid didn't show me anything. But I'm gonna go 28-10. It'll be a physical game, but I like us covering that 14.5. I like 28-10 and a little bit of a hard fought game.
I could probably go something similar. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the score was 10-7, 14-7 at the half. Just because of everything that's going on. I've talked about it already. In the second half, I think depth is going to be something that makes a difference. But what I would say is that if I'm looking at it with my brightest, most hopeful Georgia eyes, I would say that the offense keeps doing what they're doing. Just make sure that you finish off with execution when you get down the red zone. And maybe that defense really gets after that Auburn offense, takes advantage of their vulnerabilities because they're still waiting on their offensive line to come together. A lot of transfer portal guys on the offensive line for Auburn. So I'm hopeful we can take advantage of that, maybe create a turnover. I would love to see it be, more than just a one-score game at the half. I think they can do that with a good defensive start. And then, like I say, in the second half, depth takes over. Hopefully we continue to do those same things on defense and we spread it out a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic and go somewhere in the neighborhood of like 34-35. And I'm going to leave Auburn with 7. I think 10 is max right there. So maybe 35-10. Let's do that.
Okay, I like it. Also, maybe another. I know Kirby's always looking for motivation. Maybe he can remember that game. I think it was 2016 in his opening year when Ole Miss blew him out. Maybe dropped the hammer on him in Oxford a little bit. So maybe Kirby remembers things. He gets receipts. So maybe remember.
That would be a double dip, right? Because then we have Ole Miss coming up later in the season, so we can get that checked off too. I love that, and I mean, it was also 2017 Georgia rolled in over there number 1. Now that was a much better Auburn team, but they do have that in the back of their minds too. So I don't think there's going to be any issue as far as getting fired up and ready to go play this game for Georgia guy.
Oh yeah, sure. And then hopefully on that we'll be drinking some of these. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. That's our great sponsor for this year. Zero carbs, zero sugars. Great at a tailgate. Great for the pool, even though that passed by Labor Day. I drank a couple of those. So yeah, Viva Tequila. One of my favorites is the watermelon. To get 20% off, Hustle20 is the discount code. So that's Hustle20, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. And we had our score prediction for the Notre Dame Ohio State game last week. And the winner was 2 Diesel. We'll make sure to try to send that over to him and ship it off. 2 Diesel. A little bit of a low scoring game, but he picked 25-20, and the final was 17-14. So appreciate everybody that commented on our video. And we're going to do it again this week, but we're going to do it for the Georgia Auburn game. So you can make your prediction out there. Maybe we can throw Randy in on this. I think he said he's gonna go 35-10. We'll remember that one. We can always ship him some of that, and I'm gonna go with 28-10. So yeah, Viva Tequila Seltzer. Make sure and do your score prediction on the comments at the when the YouTube podcast is introduced. And then I wanted to next briefly touch on the UAB game. Georgia got them 49-21. A little bit of a sloppy game. Did get Carson Beck. I kind of saw this as hopefully his get right kind of coming out party. I think he's 22 of 32, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He looked really good, and they actually started fast. And I think we had 3 turnovers. A little sloppy on the defense, but yeah, I want to get your thoughts on the Georgia UAB win.
I think you're on the beam there as far as Beck is concerned. I mean, half of those incompletions were drops, and he made corrections in real time. He saw he missed the deep ball to Meeks. Then he comes back, throws a brilliant ball to Smith, who then drops it. So again, it's execution. I thought Beck handled the game very well. He made some really nice intermediate throws. He's getting the team into the plays they need to be in. I really like what he's doing. As far as the defense is concerned, that's the one area that I think myself, along with all of Dog Nation, has been just a little bit like unsure about what's going on, because for the most part, you've got faces that we know, and things are happening that maybe we're not super comfortable with, right? We're not used to it. So it's nothing I've seen yet that makes me think there's any sort of an issue other than personnel and things like that. And some of it is just being who you are. Like the touchdown in the South Carolina game on the first drive, that was a pressure play. That's who we are. Kirby and Schumann, they like to bring those pressures. Then it just comes back to the players executing it correctly. So I don't see anything that alarms me, but I do want to see them start to tighten the nuts a little bit, bolt everything down and just settle things down a little bit on the defensive side. And again, I think some of that has to do with personnel, but we're going to figure it out as we move through the season.
Yeah, completely agree. And like what I saw from Beck, Dejon Edwards again was the two touchdowns, a little bit of the workhorse. Andrew Paul got in there a little bit. I know Brock Bowers. What else do we have to say? He's Captain America. 9 receptions, 121, 2 touchdowns. Hopefully, maybe get a couple more of these games. We can get him in that Heisman talk again that I think he deserves, because we got to enjoy him while we still have him. But yeah, all in all, I think they'll get it tightened up on defense, and I think hopefully if we get Javon Bullard and Malachi Williams with the last minute scratch, I think that kind of hurt him a little bit. He sounds like he's the leader on the line. And then I'm hoping Pop Dumas Johnson. I think he's been struggling. He even said in an interview this week he's been average. He's been kind of missing some guys, so maybe he'll clean that up. But I think we'll be okay. And then special teams that was a little bit of a step back. They were improving really good. Had some fumbles, so hopefully we'll get all that cleaned up.
If there's anything that I would point out, and I think Kirby actually mentioned this too, that I don't like right now through the first part of the season, is just overall ball security for all of our ball carriers. I don't know if they're going to have to go get the what is it? The Barber running back used to play for the Giants.
Barber.
Get that ball high and tight. Yeah, bring him in there, coach him up. And I know they're coaching them up, but we've seen Carson do it. We've seen the backs do it, Roderick Robinson. We've seen Muse do it. We've seen what my guy, Rosemary Jack Saint, do it. Get loose with the ball, get that thing in there tight, and hold it up tight to your chest. Let's secure that ball, because the ball is the most important thing. And that's just something they have to work on and clean up. But outside of that, I like where we are. I think the team is growing. I think the team is evolving. And you mentioned Brock earlier. I think that this offense is evolving, and as we see, what we see now is not what we are going to see in week 9, 10, and how they're using him and things like that. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with it.
Yep, completely agree. And then I want to get your thoughts on George or Kirby did win he played in he coached in his 100th game, 85-15, better than Spurrier, Paul Bear Bryant, Nick Saban. I want to get your thoughts on how remarkable that is. And also, are we getting spoiled as Georgia fans with the high level that we're on? Because I think we're still trying to compare ourselves to 2021 and 2022.
Oh, let me start with the second part first. The answer, in my view, is yes. I'm a full hardcore Gen Xer, right? I've been around for a minute. I've seen a lot of stuff. Been a dog fan since I could crawl. So that's just the way it is. And I really, really try to not allow myself to do that. Right. I try to respect the game, right? The battle, the challenge each week. I don't want to become a spoiled fan with high expectations. I still think, though, that not only is it creeping on me, I think it creeps in on a lot of fans, right? It's just you get used to winning, and that's the way it is. So, yeah, I think we're a little spoiled. I've even poked a little fun at myself and the rest of Dog Nation on social media, like if we're not up 21-0 after the first quarter, the sky's falling kind of stuff. So,
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. So that's just one of those things where, I think you have to admit it. But I do try to guard against it, me personally. But it is what it is. And as far as what Kirby's doing, man, I love that fact. And that's simply what it is. It's just a fact of performance on the field. And it doesn't matter what your detractors might try to say about it. The numbers are the numbers. And it's backed up with championships. These are not empty calories, if you will. And again, I'm a Gen X guy. So growing up, when I think about the people on that list, when I think about the fact that Steve Spurrier is on that list, and I know what it was like to grow up and watch Georgia play Florida and see those teams and wonder if my squad was ever going to be that kind of program. Now to be living it, as much as I say it, and I say it a lot, I try to remind people to enjoy the season, enjoy the games, enjoy the season of life we are in as Georgia Bulldog fans, because it hasn't always been that way. You might be new to the party. You might only know 2021 to present day. But for those of us that have been around for a while, just love it and embrace it. And don't look for something to complain about all the time. Enjoy this because it's fantastic. I'm super excited for him. I'm happy that he has that accomplishment. You can't take that away from somebody, right? Because once you hit that marker, it's in the past and then you're just on to the next. So I'm proud of what he's doing with the football team, and I'm proud of he and the way the football team represent my university, my alma mater. Kudos, Kirby. Proud of you.
Exactly. Yeah, completely agree with me. 85-15, you can't say anything better, especially in that with all those echelon of coaches. And, I knew when he came back in 2016, welcome home. I think he's here to stay. Hopefully we'll have him years down the road, 10, 15 years. But I can't ask for anything better. And just headed in the right direction. While you see all these other teams, recycle different coaches. And then, when Saban does retire, hopefully soon, I think we might make another run and make hopefully a dynasty here,
Yeah, and that's a word I don't use, because I think you have to. Some people tell me I should. I've had some people tell me that if I'm going to call Pete Carroll and USC in the early 2000s a dynasty, then I have to call the last 6 years in Athens a dynasty. I understand that point of view, but just as a fan, it's hard for me to just be like, yes, this is who Georgia is. I just think that Georgia is a fantastic program built on a solid bedrock of hard work and discipline. And I think that that's not going to change as long as Kirby Smart is there. I'm with you. I don't think he would leave to go anywhere else, NFL or otherwise. I think he's a dog until he's done, whenever that, he decides that is. And hopefully it's 10, 15, 20 years. We don't know. So again, enjoy it, friends.
All right, definitely for sure. And then I wanted to get, because it doesn't seem like a very dominant team this year, and I know everybody goes over it each week and it kind of updates. But I was going to see, give me your top five rankings or your top five teams currently
in all of college football. It's gonna be kind of boring, I think. Maybe not. You can tell me, because I don't want to make an assumption here. And I had the list in front of me because I figured I needed to make sure I wasn't just going verbatim, but it's actually going to resemble what the AP has going on right now. So I think that I'm going to put Georgia at 1. It's not a holdover effect. I just think that they have the best looking roster, and the questions that they do have, I think they have the easiest answers for them moving forward. So I have Georgia at 1. They're undefeated. I would probably put Michigan at 2. And obviously I have some questions there. I might could put Texas right there, but I'm going to have Michigan at 2. I'm fine with Texas at 3. But then at 4 and 5, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to put an LSU team up there because I think that they have, even though they have the one loss to Florida State, they have 2 really good wins, since then in the conference. So I like them. So probably number 4, I'm going to go with Florida State, and then 5 LSU. And if I had to put somebody, like, because I was going back and forth, I might put Penn State just outside that group.
Gotcha. Yeah, mine's actually Georgia, even though if you're a non-Georgia fan, you can kind of look at the eye test and say they haven't really played anybody, but I think the champ is here, returning champs. We should be 1. Number 2, I can agree with you with Texas. The team, I guess, just by the eye test, I think they were important wins is because it was over LSU and it was over Clemson, even though Clemson, I think, is taking a step back. I'm going to go with Florida State 3. Number 4, I'm going to have to put Ohio State because that was a good win over Notre Dame. It was a ranked team. And then, yeah, 5, I'm going to kind of go, just maybe I'm getting on the hype out here. I'm hearing more important about Washington, or
Yeah.
what Lee Corso say, Washington. I don't know if they really played anybody yet, but they're putting up great numbers. Penix Jr. is a great quarterback. I'm not sure about their defense. Haven't really watched much. I'm kind of getting on that hype train, but that's my 5. But it doesn't seem like that juggernaut this year. And that's why I kind of wanted to ask you. This thing's wide open.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I seem to struggle putting together my top 5. I probably should have just left numbers off of it because, I mean, I considered Washington, Ohio State. Absolutely. I didn't mention them, but they're right there. I mean, you could take the 6 or 7, 8 teams and really kind of shuffle them around and be fine, I think. It just, how do you want to do it, right? Do you want to do it current season? What have we seen? What do we project? So I'm with you. I think that at this point it is absolutely open, and that's fine. It goes back to what you asked earlier. Are we spoiled? I think 65-7 over TCU ruined so many people's points of view and perspectives, right? Because that game, although glorious to watch and enjoy and look back on, that was not actually representative of what was happening, right? I mean, that game could have broken a few different ways, and Georgia still wins, but you don't get that score. But when you get that score on the heels of a previous year's national championship, then goodness, Georgia should never, ever, ever drop a pass, miss a block, right? That just shouldn't happen. And obviously, those are unrealistic expectations. And when you put this Georgia squad, which is still growing and evolving, up against that unit or the way we remember them, it certainly slants how you view their performance so far. And I think it's fair to do that on varying degrees for all of these teams. So I agree with you. I think it is open. But I stand by what I said. I do think Georgia has good answers. It's just, are they going to figure it out? And when do they figure it out? And if they get healthy, that's a problem for the rest of college football. So that's why I still put Georgia up there at 1. But absolutely, Washington, Ohio State, all of them wonderful teams. It's going to be fun to watch.
I completely agree. I can see those. And then lastly, just because I guess I was listening to stuff Sunday, I watched the late game, had the Georgia game on, of course, and then the Ohio State Notre Dame game, and I was secretly pulling for Notre Dame. I have my reasons with Ohio State. Well, anyway, then I heard the post comments about Lou Holt, so I want to get your thoughts on that. And to me, Ryan Day, not a good look. It's almost like it was a really bad wrestling promo. I'm a wrestling fan from back in the day, and that he was a whiny little baby. I want to say the B word, but I won't. But that's what he sounded like. But I want to get your thoughts, and that kind of bothered me. Not a good look, and he looks like he's got a sprayed on beard too. So anyway.
Yeah, no, you know what? You said it better than I probably could have said it. I just don't think that's a good look, man. It's just not a good look. That Ohio State hasn't won a game of consequence in, 2 or 3 years, it feels like. And then you go on the road, you have a big victory like this, regardless of how it happened, you got it done. And the thing you want to talk about is that only perpetuates and strengthens and deepens people on the outside who may have the opinion that all you're going to do is, play the victim or try to have something to whine about. All that did was sort of amp that up. I don't think he did anything to help that reputation, when it comes back around to him again, because it's like you said, man, it's just not a good look. Take the victory, praise your young man, and try to get your ducks in a row so you can get back and play Penn State and Michigan and those teams. So, yeah, not a good look.
Yeah. I mean, you're calling out 86-year-old Lou Holtz. I mean, I don't want to say he's forgotten, but I don't even know what he was doing recently. I know he's an older guy, but yeah. And then I think everybody maybe secretly wants, maybe I wouldn't mind playing Ohio State again and punch them in the mouth and dominate them in the trenches, but that's me.
No, I would love to see that matchup. Everybody's like, wait until, and I'm like, okay, bring it on. Do you not realize who you're talking to? Like, this is a team that for the last 2 seasons has branded themselves as a very physical team that can turn it to 11 when challenged. Yes, we're still learning that about this squad, but recent history, past could be prologue. Just if you're going to say you want Georgia, okay, friend, let's do it. Like, we're worried about playing any of those teams. Pick one. Exactly. Georgia's not, I promise you.
Oh, yeah, we're not scared of anybody, I'm sure. Bring it.
That's right. And since you're an old wrestling guy, I got this for you.
Sure. Bring it. Oh yeah, exactly. And then how do we follow you on the socials there at Damn Beast Media? I know we got your thing up here. I found you on YouTube. It's been great. Got some really great memes on X, even though I still want to call it Twitter. But yeah, I'm following on there.
Yeah, we're really easy to find. Instagram is the only one that's been a bugaboo. All you have to do is put at a damn beast and you're going to find us. You can find the website, which is sort of a place where everything winds up eventually. But you can also find us on all the socials, X, Instagram. On Instagram, the handle is a damn beast media, but everywhere else, it's just a damn beast. And, we have a good time over there. I try to have a good time on TikTok, have fun, and produce some fun videos and stuff like that to look at. And then if you prefer the longer form stuff, you can find us on YouTube where we do longer form videos and then the live streams and things like that. We do the podcast over there. So we have a lot of good times. I'm having a good time doing it. And anybody who gives me an opportunity for a listen, just know that we are thankful. I appreciate it. Right. And I hope I can earn your support.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on today, Randy, and make sure and check him out, subscribe, and check him out on Instagram and check him out on all the socials. That's great. And I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Trey. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Randy. Make sure and check him out. And if you're still around, make sure to like, subscribe, and share them, all those good things on the Doghouse podcast. And go Dogs. Hopefully take care of business against the barn.